back.
Recording in progress.
We're live at the 5th annual MSS Tri-State. We're back with Mike Goedeke, CEO for HackDefNet. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm enjoying being in the Tri-State area. I know you've physically just been in the Tri-State area.
Yeah, I just came back like a few days ago, like on Tuesday. Yeah.
And what's the feel on the ground there? Like, is it one unified area, or is the Tri-State really diverse?
It's pretty diverse. I mean, it depends. The more you get towards Philadelphia, the more you'll have industries, some of the old steel manufacturing, stuff like that. The more you get to the city, you'll have financial services, healthcare, and a lot of those different types of retail organizations. And then in Connecticut, Connecticut is one that I have the least experience with. Would love to have a few clients in Connecticut, but it's always been an interesting drive up to Connecticut. It's been like that mystery state that I don't really know that much of. Yeah, I mean, there's manufacturing there too. There's different types of organizations, but a lot of things gravitate from New York. They go towards New Jersey and then towards Pennsylvania, et cetera, that area. And then the more south you go, the more there's diversification of the different types of services and stuff. But yeah, it's cool.
Well, we will continue the Tri-State mission.
Yeah.
And excited to hear what you're going to talk about today. We had a super engineer panel before.
Yeah.
What are you going to be talking about now?
Well, today I'm actually going to be expanding on that AI brain hacking piece. So I talked about AI algorithms, and last time I talked about how we're seeing the advent of misaligned AI systems. And I talked a bit, one of the use cases was social media because it's easy to use and show how AI algorithms basically change algorithms for the feeds and how these feeds basically keep us focused on things. And I'm actually going to expand on that because I've written about 3-4 different books on this topic in the last few years. And we're starting to produce a lot more systems like the Silver Crow method system to basically do nervous system resets. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that in corporate language so that folks understand what's the academic research that we've done in the last few years, the last 5-6 years on this. What did we talk about the social media dilemma back in 2024, 25, I believe I released that book. And what was the research right now and what are we working on? So I'll start with that right now.
Perfect. Well, I'll be here as the champion as always.
Okay, so just let me know with the time and stuff. And yeah, how much time do we have for this one?
We got 40 minutes. So
40 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me start with this one. And my name is Mike Goedeke. I'm the CEO and basically the guy for everything at HackDevNet, basically doing research, doing training systems, etc. So part of my doctoral research for the University of Edinburgh was focused in on taking a look at if social media is good or bad for business. And from that ecosystem of social media, what it does, how it works, etc., I expanded the knowledge that I have in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I've started to develop different use cases on how we help train folks to detect things like AI attention capture, or what I call AI brain hacking in social media, and how these things lead to new types of belief systems. And I wanted to explain a little bit of that a little bit more in detail because there's a lot of folks that adapt different language to this. We're one of the first to actually research, is AI actually harmful for human beings? And this is some of the results that we came at. So when I talk about AI intention capture, all of these systems leverage artificial intelligence systems with agentic AI and bots that mimic actual human beings. And what we haven't been able to have assessed in the past is how harmful these things are and how they lead to a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today in younger age groups, but also in our age groups, the 30s until the 60s. So we want to take at how these artificial intelligence-based algorithmic platforms increase exposure, intensity, and increase stress load, and basically erode boundaries that we have for us in our character and people as human beings. And then we want to talk about one of the methods that we've evolved, the Silver Crow method, which is basically, think of this as a vulnerability management and patch management system for the human brain that protects us against vulnerabilities that AI exploits from the human brain. That's the best way I can describe this. So, if you remember in my presentations in the past, I talked about the evolution of misaligned AI or evil AI for the dramatic piece of that. And we started off with AI being something that was promising an amount of good for humanity. It was supposed to enhance productivity. It was supposed to solve problems. It was supposed to do all the great things to make us really nice and happy and aligned as a, as a species and focus in on the things that we need human beings for. As artificial intelligence evolved, it became much more aligned to what I call almost a predatory misaligned type AI or predatory evil AI. So it went from potential to beneficial AI, ethically designed to support and respect human values. There it was still okay, better, well intended programs, long term purposeful labor, that kind of stuff. Then it started to get misaligned. We started to have more of a hyper focused AI that optimized at cost of the human well being. That means it was more important to achieve results rather than be safe for human consumption. It was that ends justify the means justifications. It was a socially driven cost that people knew that leveraged these platforms that they were causing harm. Then it went to unethical and predatory AI. So, unethical AI is when we have an action based artificial intelligence that actually exploits human weaknesses via automation, agentic AI, generic AI, etc. It includes manipulative workarounds in how the human brain works. I'll get to that later. And it was also an AI oriented twisting of the truth in order to create a narrative where we would click on links and the social media platform would make money every time we click on a link. AI does exactly what you want it to. If it says sell more, it'll sell more. It doesn't care how it sells more, it just does it. And that's where the issue comes into play. Now we're reaching, at least on the social media platforms, a very manipulative AI auto attack based system that directly targets the human brain and the nervous system, creating mind hacks and also perpetual distortion of reality. So we're going from a regulated person and brain to an unregulated, degenerate-based AI development that we're seeing in real time. And the issue here is bad actors will always choose profit over people. And this is something a lot of folks forget. So what does this actually mean for AI and how does that work? In the past in my books, I've talked about, mental fog and ADD, inducing dopamine loops and attention disruptions in the human brain. I talked about addictive fear of missing out dopamine cycles that triggered by clickbait, novelty, or the fear of missing out. So basically creating a false sense of truth and also of timeliness so that if you don't go into your feed and you don't process the things in your feed, your score goes down in the algorithm on social media. If you are a content creator, these things are detrimental to the success of who you are and how your business is when you leverage social media. So when you see all these videos of people saying they have burnout, this is part of the reason why. And it's not just content creators, it's everyone that consumes the AI-based feed enhanced algorithms that are in social media. The more you consume, the worse the situation gets. So we call this mental exploitation, and that's become a cybersecurity problem. And why is it? The Silver Crow method is that vulnerability management system for the human brain that exploits or that it avoids the exploitation of our human brains. It basically patches the brain through different concepts, and I'll get to those a little bit later on. And this comes from cybersecurity. I'm a cybersecurity analyst, I'm a hacker, and I'm a penetration tester. My job is to find out where risks are, how can I exploit them, and how can I patch and fix them. This is exactly the same concept, but for the human brain, right? So we want to restore alertness. We want to restore focus and emotional clarity with the nervous system. We want to break the addictive FOMO cycles and attention hijacking from AI-induced feeds. And we want to neutralize false truths with critical thinking resets to make sure that people don't manipulate us. So what does the academic research tell us? AI ranked feeds causally increased exposure intensity. That means more time, more checking, stronger engagement loops on social media. Higher doses of social media use is already normal for a large share of teens and also for adults, which makes downstream stress risk a population issue rather than an age case. The most defensible bridge to burnout-like depletion is sleep disruption, stress overload, attention fragmentation or distraction, and reduced recovery capacity in the human brain. So when we talk about things for the corporate environment, we talk about agreements and cords. Think of these as digital habits, emotional loops, and response norms that pull attention from other before you have a conscious choice. So you think you're making a choice, you have freedom, but these things are pushing you into the algorithm and they are forcing you to engage with it. What does that mean? The bottom line is AI-driven algorithms have been shown to influence brain chemistry and behavior in ways that can increase susceptibility to manipulation, dependency, and shifts in moral judgment. Let that sink in for a second. AI-driven algorithms have been shown to influence brain chemistry, behavior in ways that can increase susceptibility to manipulation, dependency on social media, and shifts in moral judgment. That's saying something. That's the vulnerability that we're trying to patch. So, what do algorithms do? They actually change the dose of how much we consume social media. So when AI ranking is switched on, the exposure intensity rises. In large face group Instagram field experiments, we found that algorithmic feeds drove substantially more time and activity than chronological feeds did. So these AI feeds are giving you what it thinks you need so that you click on those links rather than chronological feeds that get processed through the time of day when people actually post things. So it pushes these things it thinks that you're interested in to get you to react faster and nonstop. So in the 7-week X field experiment, we found that enabling the algorithmic feed increased engagement by 0.14 standard deviations. That's for the statistic folks in the crowd. A pre-registered TikTok study found that reducing personalization cut use by roughly 40 minutes per day and reduced automatic opening behavior of these emails, of these posts. So think about that for a second. AI algorithms, they actually keep us locked into this. So plus 37% chronological time per day versus typical users, 73% typical for Facebook time per day when algorithmic versus typical users is turned on. So what is the idea of high exposure? It's common and it's a risk that rises with the dose of social media. The more time we spend on this, the higher our exposure is, the higher the risks become of mental disorders. Think about that. So twice the risk signal, which is 3 hours a day linked to basically depression, anxiety, and symptoms of risk in the human brain. 46% of US teens online almost constantly that are consuming these different types of feeds every single day. 46%. That's almost half of our population. 11% of people have problematic usage of social media, which means adolescents across 44 countries and regions have an 11% increase in problematic use of social media and also the human brain. So the Surgeon General now is advising and cites that the 8th and 10th graders average around 3.5 hours a day on social media as of 2021. The WHO Europe reports that problematic social media usage has risen from 7% to 11% between 2018 and 2022 alone. The numbers for the last few years are much higher. So how does this really work? A simple executive model for tracking how this works is we have AI ranked feeds and personalization of those feeds. We then have a variable reward and social approval. Every time you click on these things and open it up, your social rate goes up. You are more known and hosted to other folks, more important. After that, you check more. You have longer sessions involved in that because you have to keep your reward system up and running. You have to keep that chemical balance of endorphins and dopamine up. And that means you have to keep on constantly checking. It keeps you in the cycle. Then the more time you spend over this over time, the less good your sleep is and the less of a recovery you have. We call that recovery drift. That means how long does it take for the human brain to actually reset itself and move away from fight and flight mode into normal reactionary mode. That leads to fatigue, reactivity, attention fragmentation, etc. So what are the measured signals that we had in this research so far? Sleep disturbance, delayed cortisol recovery, more checking on the feeds, stronger habits that are automatically created by the AI in social media, and higher symptoms at risk at the higher dose. So how does this actually work? What's the chemical side of this? And I did this in another presentation. I want to make it a little bit more well known to folks here. So the chemical loop deepens these chords that keep us fixed. We have the pattern of reward, stress, and return. So intermittent rewards keeps checking alive in our brain, and that we have to check on our feed, even when it no longer feels nourishing. So we're caught in this loop because of fear of missing out. We are addicted to the feedback loops. We are overstimulated and have a stress response because of that. It escalates our anxiety and our fear. It heightens our threat sensitivity, and it triggers cortisol spikes in the brain, which leads to chemical dependency and dopamine levels and cortisol that go down and go up, as well as serotonin that go down. The things that we need to sleep, to relax, and to go out of fight or flight mode, they constantly keep us in there, and that actually damages the brain. So the chemical loop can become an energetic loop or a cord. The stress rises, the system looks back to the feed for relief from the state it helped create, and it constantly goes in a loop that never stops. So the point here is not to diagnose social media as bad, it's to name the hooks very clearly enough so that we have a choice to return back to social media and we're aware of what these things are doing to us. So what else does AI algorithmic feeds do to us? They actually do something called bias deregulation, and that weakens discernment. So when our attention fragments, our judgment gets easier to steer or manipulate. Fragmented attention shortens the distance between trigger and conclusion of things. We don't analyze. Repetition and virality narrow what feels obvious, urgent, and true. Nuance drops out. Certainty becomes more rewarding than discernment. So the truth is not important, but the reward is. So shorten attention spans. We impair focus and learning. We overload decision-making processes, which leads to a critical thinking and focus deficit. Fragmented attention, lower creativity, poor problem solving. This is happening. When bias is deregulated, manipulation can enter wearing the mask of clarity. So critical thinking erodes not only through ignorance, but also engineered overload from the social media platform using AI. It does what it's supposed to do. So what this also does is it creates a new sense of reality. We call it a false moral structure that appears. Platforms are quietly teaching all of us what to praise, what to fear, and to obey. Yeah. Visible starts to mean valuable. Speed starts to mean virtue. Agreement starts to mean belonging. Metrics begin impersonating conscience, meaning, and worth. People stop asking, is it true? And they start asking, does it get approved? And that is how an algorithm can begin to write a moral code into your nervous system. It changes your values and your moral structure, what you will accept and what you won't. Through attention-stealing algorithms, through manipulative AI models, through misinformation and clickbait, and endless scrolling and notifications. Why should we care? Because we're suffering lower attention recovery, boundary erosion after hours, persistent emotional residue after we've stopped consuming this, and reduced inner signal before action loops. So sleep loss and poor recovery lead to lower resilience, especially for people already under load. Emotionally optimized feeds raise the odds of reactive decision-making and faster bias formation. Digital urgency norms can quietly become a cultural norm. Always visible, always reachable, always reacting. So with the Silver Crow method, we call these things energetic leakages that impact the brain. It takes energy away from the brain from normal functions and programs us to work and condition us to do things. It forms what we call agreements and chords. So agreements are default rules that people start obeying without explicitly choosing them. I must stay visible to matter. I must respond fast to belong. I should keep checking so I do not miss what everyone else knows. Chords are recurring attention and emotional loops inside the brain that pull us before we make a conscious choice. So the algorithms train our minds to no longer think before we act. We act because of a pattern that is taught to us through social media that we consume. So agreements are the rules, cords are the pulls, and the intervention is to restore consent before action. So how do we do that? First off, let's notice what's going on. Name the hook, the agreement, and the first sign of charge. Secondly, we regulate. We return to breath, to posture, to jaw, chest, belly, and feet before acting. Third, we clear. We release the urgency, the time that we have to spend in reacting to something that is completely artificial. We do not compare ourselves to others, and we do not have that false belonging before we re-enter that system. Lastly, we choose. We re-enter with intention, not by compulsion or by borrowed signal. That means we're not letting the system manipulate us. We choose to be here. We're looking for something specific. We go in, digest the information, go back out. So that is one of the best use cases that we do. Before entering a feed, before replying under charge, before strategic decisions, think about these things, understand what you're consuming, and then work off of your own conscious decisions. So what are the different suggested corporate agreements that we suggest for policies that lower the dose, restore consent, and reduce reactive use? Async by default. Remove the expectation of immediate response unless urgency is explicitly declared in your feed and by a person. Secondly, notification tiers. Separate true emergencies from routine pings and social prompts. Third, decision hygiene. Do not make high-stakes calls from inside an activated feed state. Fourth, recovery windows. Protect no-feed blocks before sleep and before deep work. Lastly, the check-in prompt. Why am I entering this field right now, and what do I want from it? So we want to help people use social media without being used and without being manipulated. We want to turn off the vulnerabilities of the human brain and protect our folks just like we protect IT assets with other cybersecurity systems. The point is not to reject the technology, it's to build a stronger human operating system inside that algorithmic environment that leverages AI. So where we fit is leadership and team workshops on healthy digital agreements, body-based reset practices for attention recovery and better discernment, and a language bridge between well-being, boundaries, nervous system regulation, and meeting. We want you to keep your humanity stronger than the hook. We want to protect ourselves against manipulation in these different types of AI-based systems. So how is reality basically filtered before we think about it? We have our inputs, the feed ranking, alerts, social comparison, and uncertainty. That leads then to a state shift in our nervous system. It arouses it. Our vigilance goes up, our urgency, our sense of urgency, and narrowing down happens. Then our perception changes. What stands out? What feels true? What feels dangerous? And then the meaning to that, story making. What are the assumptions that we're doing? What is our online identity like, and how do we react online? So when the environment repeatedly rewards speed, comparison, and interruption, it changes the felt quality of reality before reflective judgment starts. That's the critical thinking. That is why digital overexposure becomes a leadership, well-being, performance issue, not only screen time issue. So we're not talking about screen time, we're talking about the human brain. We're talking about the vulnerability that's being exploited by AI algorithmic-based feeds in social media and how to stop it. So the next thing is emotions shape our understanding of reality, which is another reason why all this stuff is so dangerous. Under strain, neural signals feel loaded. Ambiguity is read as a threat. People overcheck, they overexplain, or they withdraw. Longer reflection becomes harder to do over time. In regulated states, context becomes easier to hold. Ambiguity can be tolerated. Choices widen beyond impulse. And communication gets clearer and less defensive. So what's the business cost of this distortion through AI algorithmic feeds and social media? Reactive communication loops, reduced concentration quality, faster burnout and high noise roles, weaker boundary setting and decision hygiene overall. So our framing is when emotion is chronically hijacked, reality gets interpreted through charge instead of choice. We want to change that. So what we do is we slow the stimulus loop, reduce incoming cues and pause and check the impulse. We regulate the body, breath cadence, posture, sensory grounding, and paced attention. We reopen our perspective to critical thinking, broaden the awareness beyond that hook, the threat, or the feed, and we re-choose the agreement. Act from values, boundaries, and intentions instead of a charge from something manufactured. So the likely outcomes in corporate language are lower reactivity before communication, better boundary adherence around devices and response norms, improved attentional recovery between high load tasks, greater felt stability during ambiguity and change. So we offer different modes to do this. We have meditations, we have drumbeat relaxation and emotional practical work, and we have grounding frequencies and sound environments that we use to induce a nervous system reset stack. So leadership resets we do, digital boundary retraining, burnout prevention support, recovery of reflection, quality, and inner stability. What we're doing here through this stack is we're rebuilding the nervous system and retraining it to be resistant to manipulation on AI-based feeds. And we want to make sure that we are working on human performance and well-being. We're looking at intervention not as a substitute for medical or psychiatric care. The promise here is through better regulation and recovery, we retrieve more clarity under digital pressure. And that's exactly what we're seeing in a lot of different cases with a lot of different clients that we work with. With that, I'm going to stop it for now, and I'm going to go back to Phelim. I understand this is maybe a new way of approaching this. I hope it was interesting. What did you think?
I thought it was good, and we had a burnout session for the Toronto event a year ago, I think.
Yes.
And it is a real consideration, because if you don't have your staff, or if they're sitting there but they're not really there, because
Yeah.
it really matters.
Yeah. It's interesting because we tend to shy away from topics like this, but as a researcher, the more you take a look at technology and you take a look at what are the vulnerabilities and what's being exploited, the more you come to the conclusion that these AI algorithmic feeds, they're really freaking dangerous. I mean, I was not aware that this was done to the human brain. We're talking about 5+ years of research into human brain emotions, consciousness, and reality to get to the point where I can actually discuss what are these AI algorithms actually doing to the human brain. And now what we're trying to do is we have technological systems to detect if people use ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. But now the next piece of that is, well, how do we train the human brain against manipulation? And when you think about it, that's pretty freaking dangerous. I mean, an AI algorithm that can manipulate the human brain, that can cause chemical dependency in serotonin and cortisol spikes, and it can retrain you to see things differently and to make decisions differently. That's a pretty good way of hacking the brain. I mean, that's like,
Yeah. Imagine if I was a nation state actor and I got all my adversaries to believe whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's psyops.
Among other things, yeah. But it's an actual cybersecurity risk because the attention deficits and how we make decisions. That's the actual point here. How do we make our decisions? And all of these things that are based off of our character, there's a lot of psychological aspects to this. That is how the human brain makes decisions. Now, if we're a cybersecurity analyst and part of the team, and we're trying to take a look at what are the new threats that are coming up, and our attention span keeps on going down because we consume all this stuff, it makes it almost impossible for us to really detect what can we do and how can we get to a point where we find where that information is and how we make those conclusions and decisions. So if somebody hacks our decision-making process, they completely ruin the conclusions that we come to. It's like breaking the system.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I find myself believing and then being like, well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
That factoid. Where's that factoid come from?
Right.
In the audience, a few comments, questions. I think you addressed it, but Faye says, how can we get buy-in for this? Because burnout has real physical damage as well.
Right. So the short answer is I can do sessions with you, with your HR team, and with your company. And I can give you the academic research that actually proves this is an issue and that it's tied to burnout, indirectly, but direct enough for us to see causality. What that means is we can prove with the numbers that we're seeing and the information that the anxiety and depression that leads to burnout is being increased by social media usage. It's a fact. It's not fiction. And it's not me saying this. This is academic research that's been out there. And it's good because in the last 3 years alone, we've had so many hundreds of studies that are now focusing on this, and people are now becoming aware of the problem. So I'll type in my email and just contact me. So, and then you can let me know how I can help. So I'll give you the direct email for Silver Crow Method. So that's for this specific piece. And you keep on talking while I type.
Yeah, because but on physiological stuff, I did read, and now I have to probably go back and fact check where I read it from, because who knows, it could have been a social media thing. That burnout does mess with your red blood cell health.
So 82 to 86% of all adults have suffered at least one bout of burnout, and more than 69 to 72% have had more than one. Those are the numbers worldwide. We see an increase in the consumption of online digital media, increases the risk of burnout tenfold, well, 2 to 10-fold. The more you consume in hours, the higher the risk goes. And it's clear because that chemical dependency that happens with serotonin, cortisol spikes, and melatonin, well, it basically corrupts melatonin, which is what we use for sleeping. And that's part of the reason why sleep deprivation is there. But there's real chemical imbalances that happen in the human brain. And it's caused by the AI algorithm feeds that are basically keeping us focused there. So you can actually trace that back to usage. And the higher the usage, the higher the risk. And yeah, the causality is there.
Yeah, with my own YouTube premium, it's YouTube premium, so I don't get the ads, but like I have to routinely say, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. No, I
Me
don't want
too.
to see that. No one.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do it, I'll get lots of UFO stuff, and
Yeah.
No, but on UFO, that's the next big ruse. The whole dog ate my homework type of thing.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, not the dog, but some kind of alien with multiple limbs ate my homework. Yeah.
pretty much.
Someone from Quark 10 just ate my homework. I don't know. I'm sorry. They just went. They teleported to a different planet. I don't know where they are now.
It's just one of those things,
Yeah. No, but this is more science based. This is not woo woo.
Yeah.
This is actually academic research and science. So the nervous system has to be reset. A lot of us are suffering this. Even I did, which is why I came to this conclusion a while back. I did have my own bout of burnout last year, and it wasn't as serious as it could have been. But I tried to figure out what the hell caused it, because I started doing a lot of grounding. I do Tai Chi Qigong. I do diving. You know that I'm very active in sports, and a lot of that was digital media consumption, believe it or not. And I mean, I'm a content creator. I have to deal with these things too, because we create the retreats and the knowledge and getting the information out there to people, and on Instagram, on Facebook, and also on YouTube. So if you guys want to contact me, I will come to your companies. I will do these sessions. We're trying to work with different organizations and looking for sponsorships. We also have a retreat that we're planning on the 28th of June for Colorado. That would be a weekend retreat where we'd have basically Friday afternoon, Saturday the whole day, and then Sunday morning. And the retreat is actually meant to help folks refocus and reset their nervous system. There's a virtual event happening on Facebook on the 28th of March. And it'll also be, by the looks of it, in DC on the 8th of May. And I'll offer another like a few hour session if people are interested, either on the Friday or the Saturday, right?
Sounds good. Well, Mike, thanks very much. Also, thanks to Georgios and Faye and George in the comments for comments about productivity and healthy eating and everything like that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's a good point. So
yeah.
we actually, I actually started making teas for this too. Don't ask me how I got into this, but once I started looking at the chemical imbalances, I started to take a look at what teas are good from a health perspective. I don't think I told you this before, but I'm also a trained personal trainer, and I also am trained in auricular therapy. So part of the things that I've done with anxiety and depression clients is we focused on the acupressure points on the ear for TCM, but we also started giving them teas to basically reset the nervous system too. It's not medicine, it's normal teas, and I'm not trying to push any of that woo-woo stuff, but some of these teas like green tea and mixes like that, they help us actually reduce stress. So
That's
and
good.
black tea in the
I had a
morning.
green tea today.
Yeah, green tea's good, really good. So with that, let me know what you guys think. There's also a shop where we sell those. If that's important, just let me know and I'll send you guys the link. Anyway, thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming on. I will give you a big virtual round of applause. I'll pop you back in the audience, but thanks for a great panel before, and thanks for your session now.
Thanks a lot.
See you soon.
All right, later.